Husker Nation, I don't want to say this show went off the rails, but I had one thing planned and another thing happened. Now, I knew I was going to talk raw, talk from the heart. I didn't have a whole bunch of notes. I did a bunch of looking up before the show, but I just wanted to talk openly and honestly. You're going to hear me reference in the beginning of the show, because I'm recording this after, record the intro after you record the show. I'm recording this after I recorded the show. I reference pictures coming up later in the show. I don't get to them because I get so into what I'm talking about. Just stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. This is a raw and, as always, honest edition of the Carriker Chronicles. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. It's just science. Now, we're going to have an honest conversation about Nebraska football. But before we do that, I love sports. I'm a sports junkie. I know I get put in this football box, which, by the way, I think some folks have allowed me to break out of, so I appreciate that. But let's show some love. Nebraska volleyball. They're 28-0. They're going to come back to your outright Big Ten champs, the favorites to win the national championship. Obviously, got to go do it. They are the favorites to do so for obvious reasons, but they're going to come back home Friday, Saturday, this upcoming week, play Ohio State and Penn State in Lincoln, of course, in front of a sold-out crowds. And if they do, and they beat both those teams, they'll go 30-0 and undefeated, be the number one overall seed headed into the NCAA tournament. All right, you look at men's basketball, 6-0, just won a tournament championship. We're going to talk about them more later on in the show. Nebraska women's basketball just landed a top 15 recruiting class and one of the top recruits in the entire country as well. They're 5-0, off to a great start. Nebraska bowling, of course, dominating as always, number 2 in the country right now. Rifle, I mentioned them yesterday in my gut reaction, number 1 in the country. Once again, don't make those ladies mad. Nebraska wrestling is one of the top 2 programs in the entire country right now. They're trying to take down Penn State, the defending national champs. Let's look beyond that. University of Nebraska Kearney, they're number 1 when it comes to the NCAA Division II coaches rankings in collegiate wrestling as well. The state of Nebraska has 7 college volleyball programs ranked top 20 in their respective divisions. All Husker sports are on the rise, and not to put the cart before the horse again, but softball may even be better than last year, probably will be. Baseball, back-to-back Big Ten champs. All Husker sports, I want to shout out them all. They're all on the rise. If you want to show Nebraska sports and Husker sports some love, smash the like button. Also, if you haven't done so yet, this is a long intro, but I think it's worth it. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe and or ring that notification bell here to follow this program. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Thanksgiving. That's my favorite holiday. You've got football, you've got food, you've got family. What could be better? Also, it's the start of the holiday season. You got everything to look forward to. Yeah, but if you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here on the Carriker Chronicles, make sure you subscribe and or ring that notification bell if you haven't done so yet. There's going to be a ton of news throughout the holiday season. It helps us out. We surely do appreciate it. Also, there's going to be kind of an off-the-wall schedule once the off-season hits and once other Husker sports are being talked about. I will keep you up to date on what that schedule looks like, but just a heads up, Monday will be my prediction show, not Tuesday. My Iowa prediction show will drop Monday. So anyways, it's time to get into this and light this candle. Let's have a real honest conversation about Nebraska football. But I want to put this up on the screen real quick, because this is something I've learned in life. It also pertains to how I try to operate this show as best I can. All right, we humans have a fatal tendency to try to adjust the truth to fit our desires rather than adjusting our desires to fit the truth. That just makes a lot of sense in general. I also try to focus on the truth along with my passion of Husker sports and Nebraska football while doing this show. But I alluded to this last night on my gut reaction, okay? And here are the specifics. When you look at Nebraska football and the schedule, I haven't gone through each and every schedule over the past 10 years. But this is one of the least tough, or maybe the least toughest schedule Nebraska's had in a long time, going back to a decade or more. Remember when we first started in the Big Ten Conference? The Big Ten was like, hey, you're going to play Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, the New York Giants, Washington Redskins, Dallas Cowboys, all in the same year. Welcome to the Big Ten. That's no longer really been the case. You look at our overall record, and this is honestly coming into this past weekend. I'm recording this early on a Sunday morning because I'm a dad and I got a lot of kids' sports to go to today. I got my twins basketball team to coach. So I've not updated this since Saturday's games, but coming into this weekend, and honestly, I want to give a shout out to Mikey Mike, who gave me a heads up on this as well. Our opponents up to this Saturday game versus Penn State had a combined record of 28 wins and 44 losses. That's all of our opponents combined. If you take Cincinnati out, by the way, remember when everyone was freaking out? Hey, we only beat Cincinnati by this much. You know that's our best win of the year so far. That's not a shot. That's just a fact. That's our most impressive win so far this year. If you take Cincinnati out of it, prior to this Saturday, our opponents had a combined record of 21-41. Now you look at the teams that we've beaten in the Big Ten. You look at teams like Northwestern Maryland, UCLA, Michigan State, etc. Coming into this past Saturday's slate of games, they were a combined 7-23 in Big Ten league play, which is why I've been adamant. If we're really going to show progress at all, 8 wins is the minimum, the bare minimum. We can still possibly get 9. We're still, I don't even know what the spread is for Iowa right now. It's so early. I got up. I'm recording this. I didn't even look yet. I will get into that in my Monday prediction show for the good buddies from Iowa coming to Lincoln and breaking down that game on Monday. I'm going to assume we're an underdog. I'm going to assume whatever bowl game we're in, whoever we're playing, seems like it's probably going to be some sort of an SEC team, which I look forward to. Probably going to be an underdog. 8 wins. It's still the bare minimum. I don't care. I don't care about a long trip halfway across the country and coming back playing an early game on Friday. It's no different than playing on Monday Night Football, going from D.C. to Dallas and having to fly halfway back across the country and then play on an early Sunday morning game. It's no different. This is not the NFL yet, but it is so similar to it, especially with the paychecks that are being made. It's not that I'm heartless. It's what college football is. I discussed this on last week's show. Now, typically I've got pages and pages of notes. Okay, one today, and I've already gone through most of them. Now I do have pictures that I'm going to share with you at the end of the show, but I just wanted to speak from the heart. I always speak from the heart, but I didn't come in with a lot of prepared thoughts. I just wanted to have a raw, honest conversation, kind of gut reaction-esque. Now I've done a lot of recon, a lot of research, but I didn't write a lot of it down. So we'll see what I remember, what I don't. Here I go. I want to go position by position. You look at the quarterback room. It's going to be a loaded quarterback room in the near future. Best of luck to Dayton Raiola, wherever he ends up going. But as of right now, Dylan, TJ, Trey coming in. Marcos Davia is still in that room. Now, Jalen Gromstad's going to graduate out. He was a 4-star. Who knows who's here? Who knows who's not? It's going to be a crazy offseason. I can't wait to see what TJ does versus Iowa. Let's be real. That may impact what does or doesn't happen going forward. When you look at the quarterback room, there's a lot of brightness to the future of this quarterback room. A lot of young, talented guys. What I'd like to see in the Iowa game, we got to be able to threaten the defense with some sort of big play potential on our part. And now I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction, our longtime partners, because they do phenomenal work. Nobody is better when it comes to concrete work and retaining wall expertise. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. If you need concrete work, retaining wall work done, and the like, go to dpsconstruction.net. Also, if this is the type of work you do and you're looking for a good employer and a good job, Jason Armstrong is the guy you want to work for. Again, check them out at dpsconstruction.net. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors and good partners, Husker Auto Group. Check them out at huskerautogroup.com. They have new GMC Sierras at 20% off of MSRP. 2025 Chevy Silverados, 20% off as well. New 2025 Escalades in stock with $5,000 off of MSRP. Call Husker Auto Group for details. That number is 402-479-7500 or visit huskerautogroup.com. All trades accepted. Financing available with APR financing as low as 0%. 2025 models going fast. All new 2026 models are arriving daily. Dylan, man, he completed a amount of his passes. He did a lot of things well, but he's not going to threaten you with his feet. Just not part of his game. It's okay. But we weren't able to threaten teams vertically. There was a period of time where we had a 2-game stretch. And again, this is kind of off the top of my head. I forget which 2 games, but we attempted 10 passes of 15 yards or more in that 2-game stretch. We completed 1. If you're not going to threaten people with the feet from the quarterback position or over the top, they can just load the box to stop the run, and they can bring everybody down closer because they know it's going to be a lot of screen plays, which we run well this year, but they know it's going to be a bunch of short passes. We've got to be able to threaten them vertically. I'd like to see TJ do more read option, RPO, things of that nature, at least a little bit more against Iowa, just so we could have a threat, some sort of a threat, because Penn State did the same thing. They had a bunch of guys in the box to stop Emmett. Their secondary was close to the line because they didn't feel threatened vertically. So that's what I would like to see when it comes to Iowa and trying to threaten the Hawkeyes defense just a little bit. Otherwise, they don't have to defend the whole field. They only have to defend like 20 to 25 yards or even 15 within the line of scrimmage. Now, TJ ran the ball 7 times, and he showed what he can do with his feet. He had 10 rushes. He was sacked 3 times as well. And he averaged 1.5 yards per carry, but a lot of that was due to the sack yardage. But I just like to see that dynamic brought in the game plan a little bit more. Just my personal preference versus the Hawkeyes' very physical and good defense. You look at the running back room. Emmett Johnson, one of the best in America, maybe the best in America. Matt Rhule even admitted, because Emmett, if you remember a year ago, wasn't getting a ton of time, a ton of reps, a ton of carries until Holgorsen brought in. Rhule even admitted Holgorsen kind of had to convince him, hey, Emmett's the guy. I'm glad Holgorsen convinced him. Now, that being said, Emmett, we got to get the ball in Emmett's hands as much as possible. That being said, this kind of leads me into the receivers. Emmett Johnson is our leading receiver on the season when it comes to total amount of catches. He has 44 catches on the season. Now, Isaiah Hunter and Ja'Cory Barney are tied for second with 42. I believe Dane Key has 32 catches on the year. I'm going to shock you. Emmett's also our leading rusher. If I recall correctly, he's ran the ball 222 times. I think Isaiah Mosey has ran it 17 times, Quentin Ives 16 times. Mekhi Nelson, who was the backup running back versus Penn State, at least he's the other guy who got carries in that game outside of Emmett at the running back position. I think Emmett carried it 19 times. Mekhi ran it 3 times. I believe he has 14 carries on the year. So we got to be able to have more guys to spell Emmett. But I have no problem. Emmett doesn't seem bothered by it. But what I'm saying, let's feed Emmett the rock as much as possible. But when it comes to the passing game, now I'm going to go to the receivers. We've got to be able to threaten people vertically, and our running back cannot be our leading receiver. I remember Penn State a year ago. One play from playing for a national championship. I know, drastically different when you think about their season, how it went now, although they look like a playoff team on Saturday. Why was their best game of the year versus us? The reason they couldn't get past Notre Dame to play Ohio State for the national championship a year ago, their 2 leading receivers, running back, tight end. Now, Tyler Ward was their tight end, but the wide receiver wasn't even the conversation. We have such talented wide receivers. I'm not questioning our wide receivers. Man, Ja'Cory Barney is a stud, and Isaiah Hunter is a stud. He still has one of the 8 fastest times on that screen pass he ran early in the season for like a 50-plus yard touchdown that any guy has ran this year in college football. I believe it was 21.9 miles per hour in pads, missing a cleat. I don't doubt these guys' skill. Okay, I just would like to see our receivers be the leading receivers. And if Emmett's in the conversation, that's great. But being the leading rusher and receiver just seems like a lot. These guys are too talented out there not to be able to threaten people vertically, not to be able to get more big plays out of them and have one of them being the leading receiver. Now, part of that's because we spread the ball around a lot. All right, if you're spreading the ball around a lot, one guy's receiving stats aren't going to go through the roof. So that's a fair point as well. I love that we have blocking wide receivers. Holy Moses Malone. They are some of the best blocking wide receivers in the country. When you think of the juxtaposition of how they did not block last year, kudos, much love. Guys like Isaiah Hunter are blowing people off the ball. Okay, when it comes to blocking downfield, our offensive line is blocking downfield better. Let's go to the tight ends. Luke Lindemeyer is rock solid. Heinrich Haarberg's an athlete who's learning how to play the position. This is just me. Dana Holgorsen knows more about X's and O's on offense than I ever will. I wish we'd have done some Taysom Hill type stuff this year with Heinrich Haarberg. That's just my personal preference. I interviewed him last week. I've been waiting to interview him for a long time. Go check that out. Not enough people have watched that. I'm going to be honest with you. This dude is the modern day Brooke Behringer. That aside, I wish we'd have used our tight ends a little bit more often in the pass game. Adam, we want to get receivers the ball more often. Now you want to spread it out to the tight end. That's why Dana Holgorsen is the offensive coordinator. My point is simply this. We've got to be able to threaten defenses either vertically with the pass or more dynamically in the run game with our quarterback using the feet. It's one or the other. That's all I'm saying. You look at the offensive line. They have played better as of late. They're a better run blocking line than they are pass blocking line. It's almost impossible to be exactly 50-50 at both. Now, I will say this. After the Minnesota game, it's pretty clear that Dana Holgorsen said, you give up 9 sacks to Minnesota, who hadn't gotten a sack in 2 previous games combined before they played us, and Michigan State had 5 when they had 0 Power 4 sacks at that point in the year, and I'm not going to go through each game. It's pretty clear he said, hey, we've got to change the game plan based around what we do and don't do well. And if I leave my O-line on an island, 5-on-5 man protection, where you're blocking guys for the most part, 5-on-4, it's 1-on-1 across the board with usually one double team. If they don't blitz anybody, if they blitz one guy, now it's 5-on-5 across the board, 5 1-on-1s, which can be tough, by the way. Just in general, he's like, we're not to the point where we can protect a quarterback adequately and do that. And so he's established the run. play action pass, get the ball out of our quarterback's hands quick. So that's phenomenal. But I mentioned at some point you got to threaten teams vertically or dynamically with the quarterback's feet, with the read option, RPO game. Get him boots and waggles. On a boot and waggle, as the quarterback's coming around, his vision is gone from half the field over. So he's only reading half the field. Perfect for a young quarterback, by the way. You can go flat to corner to cross. It's 1-2, bang. It's 1-2. It's a real simple read. I talked about this in my gut reaction. I've talked about it in previous shows. And if it's not there, boom, take off. That's the fourth option. Go run. Okay, Urban Meyer talked about something similar to this past week. I saw a short clip. So for me, I think with the offensive line, they're doing better. There is a part of me, I think the interior O-line has played good. The tackles have been up and down throughout the year. Elijah Pritchett's looked better late, but guys have been up and down. There's a part of me that is like, man, it's tough to try to create big plays downfield when you know you have to get the ball out quick because you're not sure after certain games you can protect your quarterback. Or you've got to keep tight ends in, you've got to keep backs in, and then you've only got certain guys out in routes, which is going to limit the routes you can run. So I don't want to say we're playing like 10 on 11, 9 on 11, or 6 on 11 football or anything like that. What I'm saying is when the offensive line, okay, when you need to help them with protection, which we have done much better at, it does dictate the plays that you can or cannot call. So it all goes hand in hand. I hope that makes sense. When you look at the defensive line, inexperienced, not a shot, just the facts. Okay, undersized, not a shot, just the facts. We have one senior on the entire 3 deep on the defensive line. We have 2 guys listed at 300 pounds on the entire 3 deep on the defensive line. Okay, and Elijah Judy is one of them. He won't be back next year. I've said it a million times. I'm curious to see what they can do next year as a defensive line. I genuinely am. If all these guys come back, NIL transfer portal, you never know what's going to happen, but if they all come back, they got another year in the weight room. They got a whole year of experience. I'm actually excited to see what the D-line could be next year. In the right here and now, we got to stop Iowa. There is no secret what Iowa's going to do. I put out a tweet and a post during the Penn State game that Penn State may run the ball 1,000 times, and I don't blame them. Iowa may run the ball 1,000 times. I have a passing stat that is absolutely ridiculous. Not in a good way for Iowa that I'm going to share in my prediction show, but it doesn't matter if we can't stop the run. Because Penn State said, we're going to pass the ball 12 times. We're going to run the ball almost 40 times. Both of our top 2 running backs are going to average over 6 yards a carry. They're both going to have 2 touchdowns, so 4 combined touchdowns for our 2 running backs in that game. And we don't even care if we pass. They passed it 12 times. They averaged 15 yards per pass. They completed 11 to 12 passes, which is 92% completion percentage. Juxtaposition, hey, I got nothing but love for TJ Lateef. Okay, the dude's got a bright future. But in the Penn State game, we completed, 56, 57% of our passes, and then we averaged 5 yards per pass. Okay, so those things create challenges when a team has a completion percentage advantage like that, but more or less they're threatening you downfield because now you can't load the box to stop the run because it might beat you over the top of the pass. As a team, we averaged 4.1 yards per carry, if I remember correctly, versus Penn State running the ball. Emmett was 5.4, but as a team, it needed to be a little bit higher, but sacks are factored into that as well as you know. The defensive line just got to be more physical at the point of attack. You got to be able to hit. You got to have some knock 'em back. You got to be able to stay in your gap. If you're not able to penetrate and you're not able to get in the backfield, get tackles for loss, we have 19 sacks on the season as a whole as a team. I believe Williams Waneri leads us with 2.5 sacks. Your sack leader has to have more than 2.5 sacks. I believe Dawson McCullough is number 2 with 2 sacks on the season. We have 19 as a team as a whole, as I mentioned. If you can't get in the backfield consistently for tackles for loss and sacks, you've got to be able. Maybe they will next year. You've got to be able to hold the point of contact. If you've got contain, go watch any youth football game. Flag football, tackle. Every kid on offense tries to run outside. Every one of them. First of all, a lot of them don't want to run downhill in the middle of everything because in youth tackle football, you might get leveled. But they want to get outside because that's where the big plays are. Now, it's a little bit different as you get older, but the big plays still tend to happen outside. You just got to be able to run downhill in the middle first and as well. But they were getting to our edges all night because we were getting sealed and walled in, and I talked about that in our gut reactions. So you got to at least be able to stay in your gap. If we're not ready to make the big plays as a D-line, we got to be able to do the job responsibility plays, if that makes sense. You look at our linebacker core. I mean, you got guys like Vincent Shavers who flashed here, and I think he's got like 50 tackles on the season. He's got absurd talent. I can't wait to see what Willis McGahee does as he gets older. I believe he's a sophomore right now. He's played limited. This is a guy who finished second in the fastest man competition to Ja'Cory Barney at the Husker games last spring. By the way, shout out to Jay Terry. This was his 300th game as Nebraska's equipment manager. His first game was my first game at Nebraska, Arizona State, 2002. That was my first, well, I redshirted, I was in the stands, but that was his first game, that was my first game, okay? And his first road game was at Penn State, 2002. So shout out to Jay Terry. He's been doing it for a long time. We've had some guys step up in the second level of our defense. Javin Wright, I believe it's his 7th year. Man, I'm so glad he came back. I'm so glad he overcame all of the challenges put in front of him. I'm so glad he's on this team. He's leading us with over 70 tackles. I want to say 74 off the top of my head. He's been rock solid. Deshaun Singleton, who had our 1 sack versus Penn State, has been rock solid this year. That's obviously more of a defensive back safety, rover type role. Okay. But you look at some of the guys that it surprised me a little bit. Had you told me Marquez Watson-Trent, I'm not calling anybody out. This dude's a good football player. My expectations were very high for him. Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year when he transferred here, would only have 30 tackles. I would have been surprised. You look at a guy like Dawson McCullough, who started 6 or 7 games so far. I mean, this was a dude who led Indiana in sacks as a true freshman. I think he was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I'd have to go back and double check that. But I thought he would have maybe a few more sacks than he's had this year. So the second level of the defense has had some guys flash and play well. As a whole, you would have liked to have seen certain guys step up just a little bit more. You look at our secondary. Penn State was probably their least good performance. I mean, they're an elite secondary. They're at worst, they're very, 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 very good. When you give up 92% completion percentage and 15 yards per pass, that's not the type of performance you want to have. But also, they were running the ball like 75% of the time. And when they all of a sudden pass and you're trying to stop the run, it can be tough. I'm not making excuses, but our special teams as an overall whole has been very, very good this year. I'm sorry, our secondary as an overall whole has been very, very good this year. You go to special teams. Hey, we are coming into Saturday's game versus Penn State. We were top 20 in the country in the 4 major special teams categories: kickoff return, punt return, kickoff coverage, punt coverage. Okay, you look at Archie Wilson, man, he played his first game of American football ever against Cincinnati. Now, I know he had, the late hit on the 1 punt against Penn State. What was that, early in the game? I'll tell you what, man. We can work with that. A guy who hadn't even played a game of American football before this season, keep doing your thing. We'll get smarter. We'll learn from that mistake. I like the fact that he went and hit somebody. Let's just be smarter about it. Kyle Cunanan, what's he made? 81% of his kicks this year, been very reliable. Unfortunately, I think he's missed 3 kicks this year, 2 of them. 1 was against USC, 1 was against Michigan. And that had a big impact on those games. But overall, he's been pretty reliable. Final thoughts on this honest conversation about Nebraska football. Matt Rhule's a slow builder. That's not a jab. He is. Everywhere he goes, he tears it down to build it back up. 1 win at Baylor year 1, 2 wins at Temple year 1, 5 wins here at year 1 because the cupboard wasn't at bare. And then usually you get these bigger jumps. We've not seen the bigger jumps so far. What was it? 5 wins year 1, 7 if you include the bowl game last year. We're at 7 right now. We better finish with 8. Good Lord. Did you hear the strength of schedule that we didn't have so far this year? At least 8, maybe 9. We haven't seen the big jumps, but there also wasn't the big downfall in the beginning. But he's not, take this the right way, please. He's not Curt Cignetti or, Deion Sanders in the aspect of they want to flip everything right away. Now, Curt Cignetti seems like one of the best coaches football's ever seen. We'll see how Indiana does the rest of this year. But what happens going forward? Because Matt Rhule, again, take this the right way, please. Because look what Deion tried to do and look how it happened. Look what Norvell tried to do at Florida State through the transfer portal. Look what happened. Okay, so take this the right way, please. Matt Rhule's about building the foundation, and he does not mind taking some steps backwards to go forwards. I think in year 3, the offseason heading into this year, if you're going to talk about college football playoff and you're going to talk about, our centers played very, very well. Shout out to Justin Evans. As a whole, he's played pretty well this year. The interior of our line's played pretty decently this year. But if you're going to talk about elite position groups, whether it be wide receivers or whatever the case may be, or we're making throws in practice we've never seen, and that wasn't just Rhule. And I'm not coming down on anybody. Okay, but if you're we're going to have one of the best defensive lines around and we're going to do this and do that. I said at the time, as long as it happens, hey, it's all good. But people want to see results. People want to see results on Saturday. And it's no fault of Matt Rhule that previously we'd hear certain things in press conference and it wouldn't match on the field. Now, does there seem to be a little bit of a continuation of that? Yeah, to a degree. I think that's fair to say. I think it's beyond fair to say. People want to see results on the field. Nebraska folks are hardworking, blue-collar, in your face, smash mouth. I mean that, you know how I mean that, especially in a football sense, type folks. They want to see the results. And when you talk about a year 3 jump multiple times and it's going to happen, we're going to do this, you want to see the results on the field. Now, I get a coach having confidence in his team. Sometimes coaches want to speak into existence what they want. Sometimes it's not always what they see. Sometimes it's what they want. Coach speak is what it is. If I was a coach, I'd have a certain amount of coach speak as well, but people want to see results on the field. Now, I will say this. Michigan claims to be the youngest team in the Big Ten. Before the season, like 5 publications called us the youngest team in the Big Ten. Whatever. Tomato, tomato. Potato, potato. My point is, I am excited to see what Nebraska can do next year. Add some guys through the transfer portal. A lot of guys coming back. The 2027 class has the potential to be very, very special for Nebraska football. But in the meantime, fans want to see the actual results on the field. And Matt Rhule wants to see it too. So do the coaches. But you've got to demand toughness. You've got to demand physicality. You've got to recruit the guys that are going to fit that. And I know that's what they're trying to do. And I've always been fine if it took another year to get there, like one more year after all the years we've waited. I'd be okay with that. Just what's been talked about hasn't exactly matched what we've seen on the field. And I'm not trying to call anybody out. In all honesty, I think Rhule sometimes is a little sensitive to what's said in the media, and I get that to a certain degree. At a certain degree, you just got to do your job, and I know he's trying to do that. I'm fine if we are like really good at football next year, and it takes another year. Hey, year 4 versus year 3, I'm okay with that. But in the meantime, can we please beat Iowa? Can we please frickin' beat Iowa? I don't care how we do it. Hey, didn't Dan Lanning sneak like a 12th guy on the field and take the penalty, and it hurt Ohio State up in Eugene a year ago? I forget the exact circumstance. I don't care what we got to do. I'm not saying cheating. Dan Lanning found a loophole in the rule. Can we please just beat Iowa? And then we'll see what happens in the bowl game. That's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I will say, last thing I got before I get to the questions, I had someone send me this thing that Emmett Johnson had only fumbled once all year. I looked it up. I couldn't find a fumble. Let me know in the comments. Has he even had I don't even want to jinx it. Oh my gosh, knock on wood, I apologize. I don't think he's had a fumble. My point is, as much as he's touched the rock, the ball security that Emmett Johnson has shown, we should show him some love for that. All right, here are my questions for you fine folk at home. Let me know your answer in the comments below. These questions are brought to you by Husker Auto Group. Check them out, huskerautogroup.com. You can also follow me on the social medias at X, TikTok, and Facebook. First question, has this team improved from game 1 versus Cincinnati this year? Number 2, if you're looking for positives, what are some of the positives that you took away from the Penn State game on Saturday? Ja'Cory Barney had his best game in a month. There's at least a positive right there, okay? And number 3, do you feel better about Nebraska this year heading into the Iowa game? We're 7-4 with a rough loss to Penn State. Or did you feel better about Nebraska heading into the Iowa game last year where we were 6-5, but it just dominated Wisconsin? Let me know. Go Big Red Nose. Remember, throw the ball.